Whiskey Tango Charlie coming to you on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, baby.
But what we typically like to call it is...
Celebrate the E.
So come on and join us as we celebrate the E in whiskey and learn the heritage of whiskey with an E.
Back. Celebrating with an E, Bubba.
Whiskey Tango Charlie. I mean, couldn't pick a better time of the year. I love Tybee Island, down there, Savannah, the river turning green.
Wow.
Charles, all over the country, they celebrate this.
Own it, right? Own it. And get to drink some great Irish whiskey, right? So
it started way back in the 1600s, 1700s, early 1800s. The heritage of whiskey, not bourbon, but whiskey.
Whiskey.
And how it was done then and why it's spelled different ways. And we'll talk about that as we go on. And couldn't pick a better time of the year than to celebrate Conor McGregor, MMA champion. Well, maybe.
Just badass. Let's just call him that.
Yeah. And if he's not the champion, you can ask him and he'll go ahead and tell you that he's that champion. So jump into it today,
yep.
Charles.
Well, I did jump into it. I poured this one quite quickly because I needed to get a little head start on you over there. But I'm telling you, just amazing. Someone asked me a while back if I had tried this one. I was like, yeah, no, because I'm really my palate's bourbon. I'm trying to expand, but this is a wonderful Irish whiskey. I think is, and I'm not an expert on it, but I'm just telling you, for my palate, it's a wonderful Irish whiskey, and he's done right. It's done right. When I go back and do the research on this, Troy, we kind of look at how he was able to put this together, you know.
And the mash bill.
The mash bill, right? It's a single malt. It's traditional stuff, you know, traditional single malt whiskey, triple distilled. Is following all the stuff. He goes out, Conor goes out, McGregor goes out, and he searches out, and he gets, if you read the thing, the oldest distillery in Ireland, okay, which is that? It's professed to be Bushmills. Sure. So he's using them to contract distill. And then he's really smart guy, smart businessman. He goes out and he gets a hold of the guy, was a Guinness master distiller. And he gets a hold of him. And they, rather than just going off of his palate, he takes experts and people and he blends and they do stuff. And I think he has input. He does have input into this. But he wants to do something the right way, right?
And affordable, Charles.
And affordable, right? So this is not the higher end, but I think from a tasty, from a flavor profile, it's just wonderful. It's light, and it's soft on the palate, and
it noses a lot like an American bourbon.
Oh,
so,
man. Wow.
If we can say all whiskey is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon.
Well, that's true. Right. And you get this one, folks, is just wonderful. You know, if I look down, I'm looking down, I'm looking at my flavor wheel down here. And if you kind of go with the flavor wheel, you kind of look at that thing. And right off the bat, if you like vanilla, this is your pour. I'm just going to go. If you like vanilla, and this is your pour. Second thing to that, from a vanilla perspective, is on my nosing, I get this honey. I get this light honeyness, and then when I get to the wood side of it, just a light oak. I don't get much other than the spices, and I don't get any fruit floral. For me, it's vanilla, honey, and a lightness of oakiness, and it just sits on the palate well. 80 proof. I mean, gosh, really think about it. I mean, think about it. 80 proof. How can that hurt you, right?
So my entry level into an Irish whiskey, I have friends that drink Jameson, and I'm sure that all of you have friends that drink Jameson. And of my Irish friends, they drink. Like Charles, they're pounding, and they're chasing it with pickle juice. This is not anything that you want to chase with pickle juice, nor do I think you need to add ice to this.
No. I mean, I haven't done the test on it. Be honest, I haven't done the drop of water and that kind of thing, but I just love this. If your profile is really to the sweet side, this is going to be your pour. Like I said, vanilla, honey, the sweetness, it stays forward to the palate, and man, I just can't get over it. I mean, really, it's not. Listen, it is. I understand it's finished in used bourbon barrels, but it is not a bourbon. Okay.
No.
But single malt, triple distilled. It's finished in that. You get those faint.
I think it's the barley that really sits it on.
Oh, absolutely. But it's those faint. You get those faint, and I mean faint. I mean you got to really analyze that to get any caramel or something like you would from a bourbon. And
so gosh. Back in the 1600s, and the Irish were making whiskey. The Scottish jumped in, the 1700s. We get into the 1800s, and they changed from a pot still, or basically a small pot that they were making these whiskeys in, and Mr. Coffee came up with and I don't mean Mr. Coffee like the Mr. Coffee machine sitting on your counter, but Coffee came up with a twin column still, and it really changed the way that whiskey was made overseas. And once that happened, it really took a lot from the Irish side of the fence. There were a lot of things going on at that particular time in history, with politics and infighting. The end of the story is, like Conor McGregor, he's not going to finish second, nor are the Irish people. And whiskey has always been spelled, Charles, with an E. No, excuse me. Without an E.
Without an E. I was going to say.
Yeah, without an E.
You've been drinking too much here.
And the Irish wanted to distinguish themselves differently.
Right.
And so what they did is they said, hey,
yep,
we're going to go ahead and add the E because we want to be different.
Well, it delineates it right. It draws that line. Says, we follow some of the exact same distilling methods, and the single malts, and single malt Scotch, single malt Irish whiskeys, right? So they follow all the same thing, but you get to that the finishing, and then what's the final. So it's really no different than whiskey with an EY, right? And it's Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. Well, the only place you're going to get that is Kentucky. And
yeah.
You can get bourbon only in America. You ain't getting bourbon anywhere else. Bourbon is an American product, USA product. So yes, it draws that line as like whiskey with that is that's the Irish whiskey, right? So.
Well, I don't think that anything is more distinguishable in the United States than whiskey with an E, other than, Charles, Maker's Mark.
Maker's doesn't use it, right? They kind of a little different.
Yeah,
but that's okay, and they got a great pour there too. So, but listen, this is a, I think for St. Patty's Day, if you've never had the proper 12, this is a great tribute as Conor McGregor wanted to pay a tribute to his hometown. He went back and he says, hey, he grew up, he's from a small suburb just outside of Dublin, and the postal code there, we call it zip code, the postal code there is proper 12. That's what they call it. And so thus the name Proper 12. He's paying tribute to his hometown and where he's from, and he's doing exactly the right way of distilling and putting the stuff together, and the blending and everything is all done in traditional Irish whiskey way. So hey man, this, I'd say cheers to Conor McGregor, the champ. I'm just going to call him champ because I don't want him kicking my ass. But good job on this, and
affordable.
It's great.
It's great, and I'll be really interested to know once we get out of these tariffs if this becomes even more affordable.
Yeah.
Charles, if it is, it's going to be my go-to.
Yeah.
To the whiskey lifestyle.
Happy St. Pat's Day.